The first bullet shattered Mara Bennett's bakery window and buried itself beside a sealed letter on the counter. Luca Moretti pulled her behind the ovens before the second shot came. He said the envelope carried his sister's seal. But Mara recognized the handwriting from years of private cake notes. When she turned it over, fresh flour clung to the wax, and a shadow moved inside the locked pantry. Mara pointed before fear could steal her voice. Luca shifted between her and the pantry door, one hand holding his pistol low against his thigh. The shadow stopped. A metal latch clicked inside the wall. "There's a service hatch behind the flour rack," Mara whispered. "It opens into the empty shop next door." Luca did not waste time asking why a bakery had a hidden passage. "Can we block it?" "Not from here." "Then stay behind the oven." His fingers closed around her wrist. Mara pulled free. "Tell me what you need. Don't drag me." Luca released her immediately. His attention sharpened rather than hardened. "Stay below the steel. If the pantry door opens, move to the rear exit. That puts me in front of the door." She pointed toward a wheeled cooling rack. "Push that across the opening first." Luca measured the distance, then nodded. "When I move." He rose just high enough to fire into the ceiling above the pantry. Plaster cracked. Someone inside struck a shelf. Mara lunged for the cooling rack and shoved it across the tile. The pantry door opened 3 inches before the rack blocked it. A gloved hand appeared through the gap. Luca fired into the lower hinge, forcing the door crooked against the metal frame. The intruder cursed, retreated, and ran deeper into the pantry. Wood snapped behind the flour bins. Cold air swept through the gap beneath the door. "He's using the hatch," Mara said. Luca reached the doorway, but did not chase blindly. He listened until the rear wall slammed once, then fell quiet. Outside, tires rolled across broken glass. 2 black vehicles stopped at the curb. 3 men stepped out with their hands visible. One moved toward the alley while the others remained near the cars. Luca watched them through the reflection in the refrigerator door. "My security team," he said. Mara looked at the 2 bullet holes in her shop. "Did they know you were coming here?" "One man did." "Which man?" "The one I trusted with my root." The answer gave her no comfort. Luca crossed to the counter only after checking the street. He used a white handkerchief to lift the envelope. The cream paper looked old, but the red seal glistened beneath the bakery lights. Mara crouched beside him. The powder around the wax was too fine for the bread flour she had used all day. "That's pastry flour." Luca glanced toward the broken pantry. "This is a bakery." The pastry flour was locked in there. The counter was clean before you arrived. She leaned closer without touching. A dark stain marked the underside of the wax. "There's raspberry filling in the seal. You can tell from that I made it tonight. Lemon zest. No seeds. It never left the pantry." Luca placed the envelope inside a clear evidence sleeve from his coat. "Then someone sealed this letter inside your shop and waited in the pantry to take it back." A thin line of blood ran from the cut near Luca's temple. He seemed unaware of it. Mara reached for a clean towel, then stopped. "May I?" His eyes moved to the towel. "Yes." She pressed it against the cut. He did not flinch, but he watched her with the stillness of a man unaccustomed to being touched without fear. "You need stitches," she said. "Laughter. That is what men say before bleeding on expensive furniture." A trace of something almost human passed through his face. "I have less concern for the furniture." "I don't." The counter took 6 weeks to refinish. The smallest sound left him. It might have been a laugh if Luca Moretti permitted himself such things. One of his men appeared at the rear door and reported that the intruder had crossed through the vacant shop and escaped into the alley. Luca ordered the building secured, but told every guard to remain outside unless Mara invited them in. She noticed the choice. Powerful men often said they respected boundaries. Luca changed his orders before he said the word. Mara led him into the office, where the security system showed the pantry feed turning black at 9:43. The office camera remained active. At 9:46, a masked figure entered, walked directly to her desk, reached beneath it, and removed the spare key taped to the wood. He knew where to look. He also knew the camera still recorded. Before leaving, he faced the lens and lifted one finger to his lips. Mara moved the recording back 3 seconds. His right sleeve rose as he reached under the desk. A pale burn scar crossed the inside of his wrist. "Pause there," she said. Luca leaned closer. "Do you recognize him?" "No, but that scar may matter." The figure placed a folded note on Mara's chair. Luca checked beneath the chair before lifting the paper with a gloved hand. 4 printed words covered the center. "Read it before noon." Mara checked the wall clock. 10:17. "That is the deadline. It is the deadline he wants us to accept." Luca said, "We decide whether it controls us." Mara opened the lower cabinet with the key on her own ring. Her old order ledger sat wrapped in brown paper, protected from kitchen humidity. She placed it on the desk and found Elena's final entry from 6 years earlier. The handwriting matched the name across the envelope. Narrow letters, long crosses on every T, numbers drawn with an open top. Elena had ordered an orange blossom cake with 5 white roses and no inscription. Beneath the order, she had written, "Do not release this to anyone except my brother. Ask him for the song our mother hated. If he answers incorrectly, destroy the box." The pickup line held a signature, "Luca Moretti." Luca studied it once. "That is not mine. Someone collected the cake in your name." "Were you here?" "My aunt worked the counter. She died 2 years ago." Mara remembered her aunt returning home that afternoon with a headache and a strange story about a man who had carried a silver lighter but never used it. At the time, Mara had thought the detail meaningless. Now, she said, the man who collected it had a silver lighter. Luca's expression closed. "Many men do." My aunt remembered because it had a bird engraved on the side. Luca folded the towel away from his temple. The bleeding had slowed. "A hawk." She called it an eagle. But her eyesight was poor. The Moretti family crest is a hawk. How many men carry that lighter? 3 were made. My father had one. I have one. Our family attorney has the 3rd. Mara waited. "What is his name?" "Victor Hale." Luca sealed the printed threat inside another evidence sleeve. "He has represented my family for 22 years. That did not answer whether you trust him. Until tonight." "Yes." A guard entered after knocking and said the street shooter had fired from an unfinished apartment across the road. The weapon was gone, but 2 shell casings remained. Luca ordered them preserved and called an independent investigator instead of the police. Mara did not like the decision. Why not call the police? Because the masked man knew my route, your spare key, and the location of your cameras. Until I know who shared that information, I will not hand him our evidence. Your evidence, ours. He corrected himself without irritation. You may call them yourself. I will not stop you. Mara looked at her broken window, the letter, and the silent phone on her desk. She wanted the clean certainty of uniforms and reports. She also knew her emergency contact at the local precinct had once joked that Luca Moretti owned half the city and frightened the other half. Calling the police would not remove her from his world. It might only announce where she stood. "I want photographs of everything before it leaves," she said, "and copies of every report." Agreed. "No one searches my office without me." Agreed. "My assistant and her children are not brought anywhere by force." Luca's gaze remained level. Agreed. "Then I'll go with you long enough to open the letter safely. You have a choice of 2 locations. A hotel under another name, or a house I control. The hotel has public staff and more exits. The house has stronger security and fewer unknown people." Mara considered the broken glass. "The house. You may leave whenever you choose. I'll remember you said that." "So will I." Luca sent a guard to drive Mara's assistant home from her evening class without explaining the danger over the phone. He let Mara speak to the woman first and tell her the bakery would remain closed. Then he waited while Mara packed the order ledger, her aunt's old notes, and a small case of decorating tools. "Why the tools?" he asked. "Because I don't know what Elena hid in that letter. And spatulas will help. People underestimate bakers because they think our work begins with sugar and ends with flowers." Mara locked the case. "Our work is temperature, timing, pressure, memory, and knowing when something looks perfect because someone wants you to stop examining it." Luca took the case from the desk only after she handed it to him. "That sounds less harmless than cake." "Cake has survived weddings, funerals, divorce, and children with wooden swords. It was never harmless. The drive to Luca's house took 20 minutes. Mara sat beside him in the rear of an armored sedan while another car followed. Luca did not ask her to lie down or close the shades. He explained the route, the alternate route, and which guard would remain with her if they were separated. The facts steadied her more than reassurance would have. His house stood beyond a stone wall near the lake, quiet and lower than she expected. No marble lions guarded the entrance. No gold filled the hall. The place carried the controlled silence of a man who had removed every object that might reveal him. A woman from the medical staff cleaned the cut on Luca's temple and placed 2 small stitches while Mara watched from the doorway. He could have dismissed her. Instead, he asked whether she wanted to see that he remained conscious. "I want to know whether you can still make decisions," she said. "The wound is shallow." That wasn't the question. The medic hid a smile. Luca looked toward Mara. "I can make decisions." "Good. The first one is food. You were shot at. That does not remove the need for dinner." His kitchen was larger than her entire shop, but the cabinets held almost nothing personal. Mara found eggs, butter, cheese, and half a loaf of bread. She made omelets because the motion gave her hands a purpose. Luca sat at the island with the sealed letter beneath a clear acrylic cover. He watched how she arranged every tool before beginning. Elena used to cook when she was angry. He said, "Was she good? She once burned water." "That takes commitment." She had it. His voice changed on the final word. Mara did not ask him to describe his grief. She placed a plate in front of him and ate on the opposite side of the island. "Tell me why she ordered cakes in secret." "I did not know she did. She came through my side door, paid cash, never brought friends. She was trying to create something outside the family. A life, a choice." Luca set down his fork. "My father treated choice as a weakness. I learned from him longer than I should have." "Did Elena leave because of you?" "She left because I ordered 2 men to bring her home after she met with a federal lawyer." Mara stopped eating. You had her taken. I told myself I was protecting her. Were you? No. He did not defend the word. She escaped the car before it reached the house. 3 days later, she disappeared. Did you punish the men? One vanished. The other said Elena had arranged help. And you believed him. I believed what? Let me avoid the truth. Mara looked at the blank walls and understood why the house revealed so little. Memory had become dangerous to him. Protection without choice is control. She said, I know that now. Knowing it after 6 years does not help Elena. No. He folded his hands on the counter. It may help me avoid doing the same to you. A soft chime sounded at the front entrance. Luca checked the security screen. A silver-haired man stood outside with both hands visible. He wore a dark overcoat and carried a leather case. Victor Hale, Luca said. Mara noticed the silver lighter when Victor opened his coat for the guards. A hawk was engraved on its side. Victor entered with the calm concern of a man who expected every room to welcome him. He was in his early 60s. Trim, careful, and neither surprised nor frightened by the letter beneath the acrylic cover. You should have called me before moving it, he said. Luca remained beside Mara instead of crossing to greet him. Why? Because Elena's estate remains legally sensitive. Victor's attention shifted to Mara. Ms. Bennett. I am sorry you were drawn into this. How do you know my name? Luca told me. He did not call you. Victor paused, only briefly. Your bakery appeared in Elena's financial records. I reviewed them years ago. Mara remembered the masked man reaching directly beneath her desk. Victor had also known the spare key existed if he had reviewed the estate. No legal file should contain that detail. Did the records mention my pantry? She asked. I do not understand. The man who attacked us did. Victor's expression held. Then you have an employee problem. My employee did not know Luca was coming. Luca placed one hand on the counter. Neither did Mara. Victor looked at the evidence sleeve. Open it now. If it is a forgery, every minute spent protecting it strengthens whoever sent it. And if it is real, Mara asked, then it belongs to the estate. It was addressed to Luca. Personal letters become evidence when death is involved. Victor's tone stayed courteous, but he spoke as though Mara had already agreed to surrender it. I can have a judge preserve it before morning. You have no judge here, Luca said. I have brought a document examiner. Who answers to you? Who has testified in federal court? He still answers to you. Victor's mouth tightened. Grief is not a reason to abandon procedure. Luca's gaze did not leave him. Neither is procedure a reason to surrender custody. Mara studied the lighter in Victor's hand. He rubbed his thumb over the engraved hawk each time Luca challenged him. The movement was small and repeated. Elena's order notes had contained one repeated complaint. Never let the man with the bird touch the box. Mara had assumed Elena meant a delivery logo. She walked to a tool case and removed a magnifying lamp used for sugar work. I can tell whether the writing is Elena's, she said. Victor gave her a patient smile. Handwriting identification is a profession. I'm not claiming a courtroom conclusion. I'm claiming knowledge of how she wrote when she ordered from me. Memory changes. So does ink. Let's see which one lies first. Luca's independent investigator arrived with sealed gloves, paper sleeves, and a portable light. Mara insisted that every person handling the envelope sign the custody sheet. Victor objected until Luca placed the pen in front of him. Sign or leave, Victor signed. The examiner inspected the paper and ink. Both appeared at least several years old. The wax, however, had been softened and reapplied within the last day. Mara showed him the raspberry stain and pastry flour. He collected both without dismissing her explanation. The paper is old, Mara said. The seal is recent. Luca's focus moved to Victor. Someone opened Elena's letter years ago, removed something, and resealed it tonight. Or someone found old paper and created a convincing message. Victor replied. Mara placed Elena's ledger beside the envelope. Then the forger copied more than letters. She pointed to the T-crossings, the open numbers, and the faint downward curve on every capital M. Elena pressed harder when she ended a line. She also corrected mistakes by drawing one clean slash, never scribbling. The address on this envelope has the same habits. Victor leaned nearer. You are describing style, not authenticity. I'm describing habits she did not know anyone was studying. Luca looked at Mara. Open it. The examiner softened the repaired wax under controlled warmth, while Mara supported the paper with a cake lifter thin enough to avoid tearing the flap. The seal separated in 2 layers. A crescent-shaped space showed where an inner strip had once been attached. Someone had removed it. Inside, the letter contained 1 page written in blue-black ink. Luca read the first line silently, then stopped. Mara waited until he handed it to her. Luca, if this reaches you, I did not leave because I stopped loving you. I left because the document in Father's safe is false, and the man who prepared it knows I found the original. Do not accuse anyone until you have both pages. Mara Bennett can tell you whether these words are mine. She remembers the cake with 5 roses and the 1 rose that leaned. The 6th rose was never delivered. Before noon, go where Father made us wait and open the oven that never grew warm. I am sorry I could not trust your protection. I hope one day you learn the difference between guarding someone and hearing them. Elena. Mara read it twice. Luca did not move. Victor reached for the page. The examiner blocked him. Custody, the man said. Victor withdrew his hand. A theatrical forgery. The 5 roses are real, Mara said. Elena rejected 6 because she said symmetry made people careless. Anyone with the ledger could know that. The ledger says 5 roses. It does not say 1 leaned. Mara remembered pressing the 4th sugar rose too early and bending 1 petal. She had offered to remake it. Elena had laughed and said the crooked flower looked like it had survived something. Only Elena and I knew which rose leaned. Luca turned away from the counter. His shoulders remained straight. But grief had entered every measured breath. Mara wanted to touch him. Attraction had nothing to do with the impulse. She simply understood what it meant to receive forgiveness from someone who could no longer hear the answer. Victor closed his leather case. Where did your father make you wait? Mara asked. Luca looked toward the dark lake beyond the windows. The old Bella Rosa Hotel. My father owned it before I was born. Elena and I were sent to the kitchen when family meetings became violent. Does the kitchen have an oven that never grew warm? 1 oven was disconnected after a gas leak. Victor's expression changed. Barely. Mara saw it because she had spent years watching customers hide disappointment before cutting a cake. The hotel is scheduled for demolition tomorrow, Victor said. At noon, Luca replied. Victor recovered his calm. The city ordered it months ago. Who chose the contractor? My office handled the permit. Of course it did, Mara said. Victor looked at her. The patience left his eyes before it left his voice. Miss Bennett, You have survived a frightening night. Do not confuse adrenaline with insight, and do not confuse an apron with stupidity. Luca stepped between them without blocking Mara's view. Victor, leave. You need me. That has not been established tonight. Victor picked up his lighter. If you go to Bellarosa without legal protection, anything you find will be challenged. Then I will accept the challenge. And if this letter leads you into an ambush, Luca's gaze moved to the Silver Hawk. Then I will know who predicted it. Victor left without another word. The security doors closed behind him. Mara watched his car leave the gate. He knew about noon before you said demolition. She said, he schedules the contractor. He also knew the letter should be moved before he saw the threat note. Luca faced her. You think Victor arranged the attack? I think he knows more than he should. That is not proof. No. It is a reason to stop letting him choose the procedure. Luca ordered an outside team to verify the demolition permit and sent a different guard to watch Victor. Mara returned to the letter. Under the magnifying lamp, the back of the page showed shallow grooves. Elena wrote this on top of something else. The examiner adjusted the sidelight. Indented words appeared across the blank side. Amendment. Transfer. Victor Her. The rest remained incomplete. She placed the letter over the legal document while writing. Mara said. Pressure from her pen marked this page. Luca's voice went quiet. The false document in my father's safe transferred temporary control of the family trust to Victor if Elena or I challenged his authority. Why would your father sign that he would not? Then Elena found the original underneath, and Victor found her before she delivered it. The examiner photographed the grooves. He warned that the impressions supported the letter but did not replace the missing document. Victor could claim Elena wrote over any page carrying his name. They still needed the original. The 6th rose. Mara said. It was never delivered. Luca looked toward the old ledger. The cake box. Someone collected the cake under your name. But Elena told me to destroy the box if the song answer was wrong. My aunt may have kept it. Mara searched the storage records on her laptop. After her aunt's death, she had moved old display stands and specialty boxes to a rented unit behind the bakery. One inventory line read, White Rose Pedestal. Damaged hinge. The cake was collected. Luca said, Why would the pedestal remain? Because it was not part of the order. Elena brought it to me and asked me to use it for presentation. My aunt may have removed the cake and kept the stand when the buyer refused it. Then the 6th rose may be inside. They left for the storage unit before midnight. Mara insisted on going. Luca argued once, then changed the argument into a choice. You can stay with the independent examiner and direct us by video. Or you can come in the armored car and remain behind the first security line. I'm coming. Then you remain beside me, unless you choose otherwise. That is a sentence I can accept. The unit stood 3 blocks from the bakery. The guards cleared the corridor first. Mara opened the roll-up door and found shelves packed with cake stands, seasonal molds, and boxes labeled in her aunt's careful handwriting. The white pedestal sat in the rear beneath a stack of silver trays. One hingavas bent. Mara placed it on a table. The top bore 5 shallow circles where sugar roses had rested. One mark leaned toward the rim. Beneath it, the wood sounded hollow. Luca reached for a knife. Mara stopped him. The seam is sealed with sugar paste. Force will split whatever is inside. She warmed the edge with a handheld decorator's tool and worked a thin spatula beneath the panel. The false bottom lifted. Inside lay a white sugar rose wrapped in wax paper. Its petals had hardened but remained intact. A small brass key rested beneath it. Mara smiled despite the night. The sixth rose. Luca touched none of it. A key to what? The wax paper carried a handwritten number and a single word. Bella Rosa. The number matched neither a room nor a bank account. Mara studied it. It could be an oven model. The hotel had 6 commercial ovens. Luca said, "One never grew warm." A vehicle struck the storage gate outside. Metal groaned. The corridor lights died. Luca pulled Mara behind the table as gunfire hit the roll-up door. His men returned fire from the outer hall. Someone began cutting through the unit's rear wall. Victor's first countermove had arrived faster than either of them expected. Luca took the brass key, and sugar rose, sealed both in a bag, and gave them to Mara. "Rear corner. There's a fire door beyond that panel. How do you know I checked the building plans before we entered? You could have mentioned that. You were busy saving a flower." Another shot punched through the metal door. Mara crawled behind the shelves while Luca covered her. They reached the fire door just as a blade opened a narrow line through the rear wall. Luca pushed the door, but it did not move. A chain held it from the outside. "That violates every fire code I know," Mara said. "Add it to the complaint." Luca fired once through the lock plate. The chain loosened. He pulled the door open and guided Mara into the alley. A masked man rushed from behind a van. Luca caught his wrist before the gun cleared his coat. The weapon struck the pavement. The man swung with his left hand, and his sleeve pulled back. A pale burned scar crossed his wrist. Mara recognized him from the office recording. Luca drove him against the van but stopped before crushing his throat. "Who sent you?" The man smiled through blood on his lip. "You did." A second vehicle accelerated toward them. Luca pulled Mara aside. The masked man twisted free, leaped into the open passenger door, and disappeared with the car. Luca's guards captured the driver of the first vehicle, but he carried no identification and refused to speak. Mara's storage unit had been damaged, yet the letter rose, and key remained secure. The attack answered one question and opened a worse one. The enemy knew every place connected to Elena's cakes, had reported illegal weapons in the basement. Mara stood so quickly, her chair struck the wall. "There is no basement." Luca took the phone from the table. Not from her hand. "Victor is creating legal grounds to seize the building. My records are there. We photographed the ledger. My employees' information is there. My aunt's recipes are there. My entire life is there. You cannot go back. You promised I could leave, and I was wrong." The words landed like a locked door. Luca signaled the guards. One moved toward the hallway outside Mara's room. She understood before he explained. "You're confining me until the search ends. You said no guard would stop me. The situation changed. Your promise did not. A warrant creates a public location Victor can control. Then give me a safe plan. The safe plan is staying here." Mara walked to the front entrance. 2 guards stepped into her path. Neither touched her. They did not need to. Luca's power filled the space between them. "Move them," she said. "I cannot." "You mean you will not, if you return to the bakery. Victor may take you through the police. Then send an attorney who does not answer to him. Put your men across the street. Give me a vest. Give me a choice." No. The single word carried the same certainty Elena had fled 6 years earlier. Mara removed the room key from her pocket and placed it on the table. You keep building cages and calling them protection. Luca's face changed. Mara, Elena's letter told you exactly what you failed to learn. I am trying to keep you alive, and I am telling you what life you are keeping. She turned away from him. Do not come into my room. Luca stopped 3 feet behind her. I will honor that. You already broke the larger promise. Yes. He did not soften the admission. I did. Mara closed the door. For 2 hours. She listened to cars enter and leave the property. Her assistant called again. The police had found a pistol beneath the bakery office floorboards. Mara had never seen it. The serial number connected the weapon to Elena's disappearance. Victor was not merely taking the bakery. He was turning Mara into a suspect. Luca sent an independent attorney to the precinct and gave Mara every document before anyone asked her to trust the process. He did not enter her room. At 7 a.m, a tray appeared outside the door with coffee, toast, and the custody copies she had demanded. The guards had moved away from the hall. Her car keys rested on top. A note in Luca's plain handwriting read, "The front gate will open for you. I was wrong. Leaving is your choice." A second folder held a sworn statement signed by Luca. It admitted that he had ordered Elena brought home by force 6 years earlier. It named the men involved and accepted responsibility for the order. The statement would damage him in any investigation. Yet, he had given Mara the only copy before filing it. Beneath it lay authority papers, transferring control of her security detail to her. She could dismiss every guard. She could select routes. She could refuse protection. Luca had not repaired the cage with a prettier lock. He had removed the lock and surrendered something valuable. Mara found him in the kitchen, standing before the untouched coffee she had made hours earlier. "You are filing this?" she asked. "At 8, it may expose your entire organization. Parts of it should be exposed. Victor will use it against you. He already uses my silence." Luca met her eyes. "I controlled you. I was wrong. The guards answer to you now. If you leave, no one follows unless you request it." Mara held the papers against her chest. "Why did you change your mind?" "Because you were right. Before the letter told me you were right. I simply preferred the lesson when it cost me nothing." She set the car keys on the counter. "I'm not leaving yet." Hope moved through his face. But he did not claim the decision. "Why?" "Because Victor planted a weapon in my bakery. And I am offended on several professional levels. Professional A, Baker spends years making sure nothing is beneath the floor that attracts pests." Luca's quiet laugh arrived without permission. It changed him more than a smile would have. Mara felt warmth rise between them. Dangerous, because it had been earned rather than imagined. "I also need the letter," she said. "You have access to it. Full access. You decide when it moves and who touches it. Then show me the back again." Under the angled light, the pressure grooves revealed more words. Mara used a soft bag of cornstarch from her tool case, tapping the powder across a clear, protective sheet laid over the page. The dust settled into the deeper impressions without touching the paper. The examiner photographed the pattern. A partial date appeared, followed by Trust Amendment, Victor Hale, and Bella Rosa Kitchen Archive. The original was stored at Bella Rosa, Mara said, not in the oven itself. The archive may be a locked drawer inside it. Luca touched the brass key through its evidence bag. "Then we go before noon." "Not through the loading dock." Mara studied the hotel plan again. The pastry room connected to a service corridor and an old dumbwaiter shaft. Elena used the bakery side door because she hated public entrances. She would have entered Bella Rosa the same way. The side door is bricked shut. On the current plan, not the original. Luca retrieved a file from the house library. The original blueprint showed a narrow vendor entrance behind the greenhouse. Later, renovations had covered it with decorative panels. Not brick. Victor's contractor might not know it existed. Luca told only one outside investigator the route. Mara chose 2 guards herself and explained that she could dismiss them at any moment. The change disturbed Luca's men more than gunfire had, but none challenged it. Before leaving, Mara packed the letter. Rose, brass key, and decorating tools inside a fire-resistant case. Luca offered her a protective vest. Your choice, he said. She put it on. Thank you. The words mattered because the choice came first. They reached Bella Rosa at 9:30. The abandoned hotel rose above the river like a tired woman refusing to collapse in public. Construction fences surrounded the property. Demolition machines waited beyond the ballroom. Victor's contractor had not yet started work. But 3 security vehicles stood near the main entrance. Luca's false message about the rival warehouse had drawn several of Victor's men away. The hidden vendor door opened after Mara scraped paint from an old latch. Inside, the service corridor smelled of dust, wet plaster, and rust. Luca walked beside her rather than ahead. The guards remained far enough behind to give Mara space. The pastry room appeared at the corridor's end. 6 black ovens lined one wall. 5 had flues rising into the ceiling. The 6th sat beneath a sealed shaft. Its enamel door carried a faded rose painted near the handle. The oven that never grew warm. Mara said. Luca checked the room for wires and traps. One guard found fresh boot marks near the flour bins. Someone had entered that morning. The brass key fit a tiny lock behind the oven's lower panel. Mara turned it. A shallow drawer slid out. Empty, except for a strip of torn blue paper. The inner strip from Elena's envelope. Luca unfolded it. 1 sentence remained. If the drawer is empty, the man with father's lighter has already taken the original. Do not chase him. Make him believe the letter can still prove everything. Mara looked at Luca. Elena expected Victor to find the document first. Then, why send us here? Because she wanted us to know what he would fear. Mara examined the oven. The drawer showed no dust inside. Victor had removed the original recently. A faint smear of gray sugar paste remained along the back seam. There is another compartment. Luca angled his flashlight. I see nothing. Because it was sealed like the pedestal. Mara warmed the seam carefully and lifted a narrow metal plate. Beneath it lay a second cavity. This one held a folded photograph of Elena beside Victor, standing in the Bella Rosa kitchen. Victor held the silver lighter. Elena held the original trust amendment. On the back, she had written, "He believes the paper is the only proof. He forgets who prepared the wax." The photograph supported access and motive, but it did not prove murder or forgery. Still, it changed their strategy. The letter itself carried Victor's mistake. Mara studied the repaired seal photographs. One side bore a tiny crescent cut. Victor's lighter had a damaged lower corner shaped like the same crescent. He had used the warm metal base to press Elena's original wax back into place. He resealed the letter with the lighter. Mara said, "The chipped corner left a mark." Luca compared the images. He will claim someone used another object. Then we need the lighter. And the original amendment. Mara read Elena's strip again. Make him believe the letter can still prove everything. We make Victor come to us. Luca wanted to use the hotel. Mara refused. He controls the contractor and knows every exit. Where? Then, my bakery. The police still occupy it. Not anymore. The search ended an hour ago. The building is exposed. So is Victor. He thinks I am frightened. Accused. And desperate to clear my name. He will believe I found something in the letter that only he can explain. Luca studied her. You want to bait him with yourself. I want to bait him with the person he underestimates. That person is you. Yes. I dislike this plan. You are allowed. I will not forbid it. That is why I'm still listening. They left Bella Rosa through the vendor entrance. As they crossed the greenhouse, one of Mara's chosen guards received a call. Smoke was rising from the bakery. Victor had made his second countermove. Mara reached the street before the fire crews finished breaking through the rear door. Flames rolled above the roof. The front counter had collapsed. Water flooded the sidewalk, carrying sugar flowers, recipe cards, and blackened paper into the gutter. Mara stood behind the line while the place her aunt had built disappeared one beam at a time. Luca remained beside her without touching. He ordered no one to pull her away. He did not promise to rebuild it. He simply stayed where she could see him. A paramedic treated Mara's assistant for smoke exposure. She had returned to collect payroll records after the police left and escaped through the alley when she smelled gasoline. The masked man with the burn scar had been inside. Mara had chosen the bakery as bait before telling anyone outside Luca's group. Victor had predicted the move because he understood her attachment to the place. The old ledger burned with the office. Her aunt's recipes vanished. The security system melted. More than evidence was gone. The bakery had been the last room where Mara still heard her aunt's voice without effort. Anger held her upright until Luca's investigator brought another report. The driver captured at the storage unit had escaped custody during a transfer arranged by Victor's legal office. Luca's own senior men were demanding he surrender the letter and step aside until Elena's death was reviewed. Victor had released a copy of Luca's old order to bring Elena home by force. The city now believed Luca had arranged his sister's disappearance. Near victory had become public ruin. Mara turned to him. Did the men you sent after Elena carry weapons? Yes. Did Victor choose them? He recommended them. And you approved them? Yes. One vanished afterward. Yes. The other worked for Victor Luca, looked toward the burning bakery. I learned that this morning. Why didn't you tell me I was confirming it? You chose silence again. Yes. No defense. No request for patience. Only the truth. Mara wanted to strike him because honesty after damage could feel like another form of control. Instead, she walked to the curb and picked up a soaked recipe card. The ink had bled beyond reading. I can't keep teaching you the same lesson while everything I love burns. Luca accepted the words as a sentence. Not a threat. I know. I need distance. You have it. He handed the fire-resistant case to her. The letter. Rose. Key. And photograph remained inside. You control the evidence. Your men will object. They already have. And Victor, he expects me to take it from you. Luca stepped back. I will not. Mara left with her assistant and one guard. She chose herself. She spent the next 3 hours in a small hotel room across town. Watching smoke stains darken the sleeves of her coat. The loss did not reverse. Insurance would not restore her aunt's notes. Money would not recover the smell of orange peel in the office drawer or the nick in the counter where Mara had learned to pipe her first border. Luca sent no flowers, no message, and no replacement bakery deed. He filed his statement at 8. As promised. Bitten. Federal investigators had opened a review of Victor's management of the family trust and Luca's role in Elena's forced return. Luca surrendered access to several family accounts and placed his legitimate businesses under temporary outside supervision. The choice cost him authority before it offered redemption. Mara learned through the news. Not from him. That mattered. At 10:20. She opened the fire-resistant case and read Elena's letter again. I hope one day you learn the difference between guarding someone and hearing them. Luca had finally heard her. Then let her walk away with the evidence he needed to save himself. The decision did not erase his control. It proved he was changing at a cost. Mara examined the wax seal photograph beneath the hotel lamp. The crescent mark matched Victor's lighter. But something else troubled her. The raspberry stain sat only beneath the newly softened edge. Victor had resealed the letter in Mara's pantry. But why use raspberry filling? He had access to plain wax. He had chosen the nearest sticky substance because time was short. The pastry flour clung to the top, meaning the envelope had rested on the prep table after sealing. Victor, or his accomplice, had prepared it while Mara worked in the front. The masked man knew the pantry. He also knew which batch contained raspberry filling. Mara remembered the burn scar. 3 years earlier, a delivery driver named Nolan Voss had burned his wrist on a sugar pot after entering the kitchen without permission. Mara had fired him. Victor had represented Nolan in a theft charge soon afterward and made the case disappear. The connection had existed in her own payroll files, now destroyed. Yet her assistant remembered Nolan. And the hotel security camera from the police search showed a man with the same height entering the alley before the fire. The evidence was not enough alone, but it gave them the accomplice's name before the climax. Mara called Luca. He answered on the first ring. Are you safe? Yes. What do you need? Not. Where are you? Not come back. What do you need? Nolan Voss worked for me 3 years ago. Burned scar on the right wrist. Victor defended him. Luca said nothing for 1 second. I will verify it independently. Do not arrest him yet. Why? Victor thinks Nolan destroyed the letter in the fire. The case never entered the bakery. Victor may not know that. You want him to believe the evidence is gone. Until 11:30. Then Mara looked at the sealed letter. Then I invite him to the ruins. Luca's voice tightened. The building is unstable. The front kitchen is damaged. The loading bay wall is intact. How do you know I designed the renovations? Victor may bring Nolan. Good. Nolan fears prison. Victor fears the letter. Put those fears in the same room. And you, I fear losing my choices more than I fear either man. Luca did not argue. Tell me the plan. Mara instructed her assistant to send Victor a message from the bakery's business account. She wrote that the fire had exposed a steel recipe box beneath the oven floor. Inside was a second letter, naming the man who collected Elena's cake. Mara claimed she wanted legal immunity before handing it to Luca. Victor replied within 4 minutes. He offered to meet at 11:40. 20 minutes before the Bella Rosa demolition. He told her to come alone. The speed of his answer became another behavioral clue. A truthful attorney would have asked whether she was safe. Victor asked whether the wax seal remained intact. Luca placed independent investigators outside the bakery ruins and informed federal agents that evidence connected to Victor might change hands. He also gave them records proving Nolan's legal connection to Victor. The agents agreed to observe, but would not enter without a clear threat or transfer. The plan could not depend on them saving Mara. Luca wanted to stand inside the loading bay. Mara refused. Victor must believe you have abandoned me. He may shoot before speaking. Then you stay behind the collapsed partition. You do not move unless Nolan appears or Victor reaches for a weapon. That gives him too much time. It gives me the conversation. Luca looked at the soot on her coat. You trust me to wait. I trust you to choose whether you deserve the trust. He accepted the wound inside the sentence. At 11:35, Mara entered the bakery through the loading bay. The fire crews had cleared the structure for limited evidence work. The front windows were gone. Ash coated the floor. The old ovens stood black and silent against the rear wall. Mara placed the sealed letter inside a clear box on the surviving prep table. Beside it, she set the white sugar rose and the brass key. She also placed a decoy envelope beneath a folded towel. Luca waited behind the collapsed office partition with no clear line to Victor unless Mara shifted toward the ovens. 2 investigators watched through cameras placed before the meeting. No new evidence would arrive. Every decisive clue already lay on the table. Victor entered at 11:41 carrying his leather case. Nolan followed from the alley. Bareheaded now. The pale burn scar crossed his wrist. He held a pistol low against Mara's assistant's old apron wrapped around his hand. You came with him, Mara said. Victor closed the loading door. Nolan is here to protect us. He burned my bakery. An accusation is not proof. Nolan looked at the clear box. Is that the letter? Victor's gaze cut toward him. The mistake exposed their different fears. Nolan wanted the object. Victor wanted control of the story. Mara rested both hands on the table. The seal carries a mark from your lighter. Victor removed the silver hawk from his pocket and placed it beside the box. Then examine it. You cleaned the base. I polish it every week. You also changed the Bella Rosa demolition time before the letter arrived. The contractor requested it. The contractor says your office did. A clerical issue. You defended Nolan after I fired him. I have defended many men. How many knew where I taped the spare key? Nolan shifted his weight. Victor did not look at him. You are frightened and grieving. Victor said, Luca has used that state to turn you against the only person capable of protecting you legally. Luca is not protecting me today. Mara kept her voice even. He gave me the evidence and walked away. Victor's confidence faltered. Luca would never surrender control. That belief had shaped every move. Then you are alone, Victor said. No, Mara touched Elena's letter. I am choosing for myself. Nolan raised the gun. Open the box. Mara did not. You already opened it in my pantry. I wasn't in your pantry. The raspberry filling in the wax says you were. That proves nothing. You burned your wrist in my kitchen 3 years ago. You reached for the wrong pot because you never listened when women gave you instructions. Nolan's face changed. Victor's hand moved toward his coat. Mara slid the decoy envelope across the table. The second letter is there. Nolan grabbed it before Victor could stop him. He tore it open. Fine pastry flour burst across his gloves and coat. Mara had dusted the envelope with the same flour found on Elena's seal. Nolan swore and dropped it. You said there was another letter. Victor snapped. She lied. No. Mara said, I gave you the same choice you gave us. Chase the obvious object and reveal what you fear. Nolan wiped at the flour. Spreading it across his sleeve, Victor reached for the clear evidence box. Mara pulled it away. The real letter proves Elena wrote over the trust amendment. The pressure marks carry your name. Pressure marks can be manufactured. The photograph at Bellarosa shows you holding the original. A photograph proves I advised her. The lighter proves you resealed the letter. Not without the lighter itself. Victor reached for the silver hawk on the table. Mara placed a metal cake lifter across it first. The base is warm. Victor stopped. You heated it before coming here. Nonsense. You intended to soften the wax and remove the final seal without breaking it. Victor's eyes moved toward Nolan. Mara had expected him to deny the heat. Instead, he blamed the accomplice with one glance. Nolan understood. You said the letter was empty. He said, "Be quiet." You said we only needed the baker, scared. Be quiet. Nolan lifted the pistol toward Victor. Power changed direction. Mara stepped toward the ovens, giving Luca the line he needed. Victor saw the movement and drew his own weapon. Luca came through the partition before Victor cleared his coat. He struck Victor's wrist, sending the gun beneath the prep table. Nolan fired once. The bullet hit the oven door beside Mara. Luca turned toward him. But Victor seized the clear evidence box and ran for the rear exit. The villain's final countermove was not escape alone. A sharp chemical smell spread through the loading bay. Victor had opened the damaged gas line behind the ovens before entering. He had planned to burn the letter. The bakery, Nolan, and Mara together. Gas, Mara said. No gunfire. Luca lowered his pistol at once. Nolan looked toward the open alley. Victor reached the door with the evidence box. Mara did not chase him. She turned the old proofing fan switch beside the ovens. Nothing happened. The power was dead. The loading bay had one manual roof vent used when sugar work overheated the kitchen. Its chain hung above the center table. Mara climbed onto the surviving counter, reached the chain, and pulled. The vent resisted. Luca moved toward her. Tell me what you need. The same words she had demanded in the first minute. Hold the table. Do not pull me down. He braced the counter. Mara wrapped the chain around both hands and leaned with her full weight. The rusted vent opened 6 inches. Gas began rising toward the roof. Nolan ran for the alley. An investigator tackled him outside. Victor turned back when he realized the vent had opened. He raised the evidence box over the small emergency burner near the loading door. Close the vent, or I burn it. Mara stayed on the counter. You cannot destroy what the letter has already revealed. The paper is all you have. No, it is what Elena wanted you to believe. Victor's attention narrowed. What else did she leave? Mara did not answer. He stepped toward her with the box. Luca could shoot him now, but the gas remained thick enough to make one spark fatal. Victor knew it. You built your power on Luca's anger. Mara said, you counted on him killing every man who could testify. He has never disappointed me. Luca's face became unreadable. Victor smiled. There he is. He threw the evidence box toward the open burner. Luca had one clear choice. Stop Victor or save the letter. He went for Mara instead. He pulled the counter away from the burner as she jumped down, shielding her when the box struck the floor. The acrylic cracked, but the fire-resistant sleeve inside remained closed. Victor reached the loading door. Federal agents blocked the alley beyond Nolan. Victor turned toward Luca, expecting death. Luca had recovered his weapon. He aimed once, then lowered it. You will answer in a room I do not control, he said, and I will give them every record you used my family to hide. Victor's confidence finally broke. Those records will destroy you. Then you should have taught me to fear the truth more than I feared losing power. The agents entered after the gas valve was shut from outside. They arrested Victor and Nolan. The lighter, letter, photograph, brass key, order records, and custody photographs entered independent evidence. Nolan's flour-covered coat connected him to the decoy operation and supported Mara's identification of his kitchen access. The burn scar matched the camera recording. Victor's lighter carried traces of Elena's original wax inside the damaged base, despite the polished surface. The pressure marks on the letter matched the recovered digital draft of the trust amendment found in Victor's own archived legal system after investigators obtained a warrant based on evidence already presented. No single clue solved the case. Together, they formed a chain Victor could challenge, but could not explain away. The original paper amendment was recovered from Victor's office safe later that day. It confirmed Elena's warning and proved he had forged the version in Luca's father's safe. Nolan admitted he had intercepted Elena's cake, delivered the original document to Victor, and helped confine her at Bella Rosa. Elena had escaped once and written the letter in the pastry room. Victor caught her before she reached Mara's bakery. Months later, he arranged the car fire that led the court to declare her dead. The truth did not return Elena. It gave her choices back their proper names. She had not abandoned Luca. She had tried to warn him. Luca's statement about forcing her home became part of the public record. He lost control of several family businesses and surrendered the illegal operations Victor had managed through them. Some of his men left. Others faced charges. Luca did not use money or influence to erase the consequences. He accepted outside supervision and testified against Victor. The cost changed his life more than any promise could have. Mara's insurance paid only part of the bakery loss. Luca offered no secret purchase and no building placed in her name. He asked what repair she would accept. Mara chose a loan from a legitimate bank, community investment from long-time customers, and payment from Luca only for the damage caused by his family's conflict. Every dollar was documented. Every contract gave her control. 6 months later, the bakery reopened 2 blocks from the old location. The new shop had wider aisles, stronger windows, and a kitchen door that could not be locked from the outside. Mara's assistant managed the morning crew. Luca came before opening twice a week and sat at the end of the counter where everyone could see him. His power no longer arrived with a room full of armed men. It appeared in smaller choices. He asked before entering the kitchen. He accepted no without turning cold. He listened when Mara changed a plan. Trust did not return in one grand gesture. It grew through repeated proof. On the first anniversary of Elena's letter reaching them, Mara baked an orange blossom cake with 6 white roses. 5 stood straight. The 6th leaned toward the empty chair beside Luca. He watched Mara place the final flower. She would have complained about the symmetry. He said, she would have complained about the price. You charged her full price. I respected her too much to pretend my work was free. Luca touched the edge of the counter, then stopped before reaching for Mara. May I? She placed her hand in his. Yes. He did not pull her closer. He waited until she chose the distance. Beneath the glass display near the register lay a preserved copy of Elena's final letter. The original remained in evidence, but every mark had been reproduced: the narrow handwriting, the repaired wax, the faint pressure lines, and the crescent left by Victor's lighter. Beside it rested a new order note in Luca's handwriting. 1 orange blossom cake, 6 roses, 1 allowed to lean. Deliver wherever Mara chooses. Mara read the final line, then turned the card over. Luca had written one more sentence on the back. Protection begins with listening. She placed the note beside Elena's letter, closed the drawer, and gave Luca the key.